Okay, here's part two of the Inman lines. And this is specifically about um, the Nelson name. Okay, so whoever's watching, thank you for joining me. Um, I know I've invited Michelle and Mom and Casey Carey and Kim, and I believe Kim's daughter Caitlin. So, just tagged them on Facebook. Um, so, this has to do with my discoveries in the Inman family line. You know, including different names like Nelson and from like Doris and Orville, and their kids and who their descendants were, or rather their ancestors were. Okay, so um, I'm going to tell. Actually, I was going to ask if you guys watched the last episode. What did you? I didn't. I don't know. Maybe you haven't watched, but what did you guys think like of the? Well, there's like a couple themes in the episode, like the doctor theme, like I didn't realize that we had, different surgeons, like John Inman being, being a surgeon and then not being allowed out of his indentured servitude when it was time for him to go and to start his life in America, and then Rufus Inman, a couple generations later, like him being someone who made his own surgical instruments and actually like let blood and treated people. So and made the lances to do that and things like that. So I thought that was amazing. So yeah, what did you guys think of that? And then also the story about the murder trial of Joseph Inman. Yeah, that's just wondering like what your thoughts are if you guys listened. And my battery or not my battery, my storage was totally full. It had like over 6,000 items in it, so I did have to I did empty it. I emptied my storage, so sorry about that. I was rushing through what I was doing because I was watching when it was saying like you only have 4 minutes left. Just a sec. Okay, so this is the spot that I normally film my crafting videos. Anyways, so yeah, so I thought when I was reading that murder trial of Joseph Inman, I actually like really thought about I was really thinking about like the Salem witch trials, and it seemed kind of similar, but the only thing that was different was like his own son was accusing was part of, I mean, his own son was basically had sealed his fate, like to be put to death. And I thought that was like really nuts, like and his son was describing like this ghost coming, coming out of the darkness or something at outside of a bar or out of a tavern, where they're drinking. So the implication was that he wasn't drinking, but so crazy. But anyways, but yeah, like it kind of reminded me of the Salem witch trials though, and because like it was about 100 years after the Salem witch trials, but just like that kind, almost like someone's like hallucinating, because obviously he didn't kill Holmes, Chapman or whatever, and Joseph Inman hadn't killed him, and so I mean, whatever that kid of his was saying he saw, he either was totally lying because he hated his dad, because his dad, I remember there was a description, and when I was reading the description in there was that his first wife had petitioned for divorce because he was had broken the marriage contract, and then he was with somebody else, and he had a family with the other lady after that too. So anyways, just thought, so either that kid was like wanting like revenge and wanting his father's property, or he was tripping on something like toxic mold or something, because that's what the suspicion, I guess, like sort of one of the theories of like what the girls that were accusing different women of, the girls who had accused the different women of being witches in the Salem witch trials, the one of the theories is that they were hallucinating because of toxic mold in the area in Salem, Massachusetts. Okay, so pretty outrageous, and I love it. I'm a total true crime kind of person. Like I love hearing, the facts and like the crazy stories people tell, and what, because truth is stranger than fiction, I think, a lot of times. So yeah, okay, so now we're gonna get to the Nelson line, and so I'm gonna tell you a story that my mother, Barbara Inman, told me a long time ago, and she's told me the story a couple times, and it's never changed. So so we've got my dad Jerry, and then Dave, and then Rick. Their grandmother was Verna Nelson, but married to Clarence Inman. Sorry, I'm just looking for the little family tree. I don't think I actually printed them out clearly. Oh, here I did it. Sorry, guys. Just give me a sec. Okay, so I don't have a picture of Clarence, unfortunately, but so Verna Nelson is the grandmother of, our dads, okay? So, and then, Clarence Hamilton Inman married her, okay? So Verna Nelson is who this story is about. So my mom, Barbara, she had decided maybe somewhere in her 30s or maybe 40s, I'm not sure, excuse me, but to gather up the family records, family history, and she needed to go, she needed to ask, Verna, because you go to the people who are the oldest, like the sages, the people with the information in the family, the most direct knowledge of the family history. Okay, so she said that so our great or grand aunt Ethel was there, so Orville's sister. So she was there when my mom had asked, oh my gosh, I gotta sneeze, I'm sorry, I have allergies. Okay, sorry. So Ethel was there, witnessing my mom talking to Verna, great grandma Verna Nelson, or Inman rather, and she said, Verna, I'm gonna try to gather up, your family stories and your pedigree, your family history, and can I get those names and those dates from you as much as you can remember? Can I get that information from you? And she said that Verna she was in her older years, and she was sitting in her rocking chair, and she said she just stopped communicating with her and went quiet, and she just fell asleep in her rocking chair, rocking, and so then I guess she didn't tell her anything for years, and my mom also said that Ethel looked completely shocked, like you're not gonna tell her anything, So anyway, so then years years later, Ethel gave my mom a call and said, you know, my mom told me, she gave me, one day she came to me and said, okay, Ethel, grab your, paper and pen and, start writing. I've got it all for you. And so she told Ethel all the information that she had. And it was limited. And my so apparent there was some implication, there was there was shame in there, and that's maybe why she had clammed up, or refused to communicate, or maybe she couldn't. Maybe it was a lot, kind of like a lot on her mind, maybe whatever had gone on in the family, it was just a lot to process, especially at a young or an older age, maybe just being asked that, maybe when you don't get that question a lot and you're not used to talking about it a lot, maybe it's a little overwhelming to have to kind of contemplate all that in one sitting. So anyways, I think you guys have probably all seen this picture, right? There's 13 kids in this family, right? And Verna is, our grandma Verna, great grandma Verna is here. So she's one of the older daughters of Sylvester. It's Douglas Sylvester Nelson. And this is Anne, I think, Charlotte Daugherty. Okay. Yeah, so, and then Anne Charlotte Daugherty, she is actually with a child with the last of their children. And so that made a total of 14 Nelson kids from Verna's siblings. So pretty cool, pretty crazy. And I have found additional information about some of them that wasn't there before, available to us because of Ancestry.com and Family Search. Anyways, so sorry, I'm trying to think of how do I put this delicately. So what Verna had told my mom was that, I don't want to do spoilers. Okay, so what she had told my mom was that Douglas Sylvester Nelson's father, his name was Isaac Nelson, and that his mother's name was Emmeline Angeline King. And that he was born, so Isaac, Sylvester's dad, that he actually had a wife before Emmeline, and her name was Evelyn. So sort of close to Emmeline, but it's not Emmeline, okay? It's Evelyn, or I've seen it spelled Evelina. Okay, so we got them together right here. So Isaac Nelson Evelina Hall, or Evelyn Hall, however you could, yeah. Anyways, so they had already had a couple of children together, and so then Isaac Nelson, Sylvester's dad, he got together with our great grandma Emmeline. So we're from the other woman, the second woman, and I'm trying to tell you the story that Verna knew and or told my mom. So this is the information that mom had before. The story was that that Isaac and Emmeline, the other woman, that they had Sylvester illegitimately, and then she convinced him to marry her, something like that. And then he married her. And then they ended up having more children. and that, oh, just a second, and that he, or that Emmeline, our great great grandma, that she left Isaac because he was too old and couldn't keep up with her or something like that, and that she ended up having more children with another man after that with the last name Richards, and that Isaac, we don't know what happened to him or something like that. Okay. Okay. So I was like, all right, I'm on it. She's like, I'd like to know who his parents were and where, what his story was. My mom asked, because I was already really looking into my husband's family history on Ancestry.com, and I've been waiting for my husband's DNA to come in, so I've done everything I can do otherwise for my husband's side, and then my DNA came in, the results, and so, I was like, okay, I'll look more into, like, our family, mysteries, and so then I started looking at the censuses. So I'm sure you guys know, the censuses are in the United States or just anywhere. This is when, census workers will, from the government will come and ask, go from house to house and ask, how many people live here? What are their names? What are their ages? Are you the parents? Blah, 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 blah. Okay. And so the censuses that I was looking through and the records were so, confusing because it would have, because Emmeline and Evelyn or Evelina are very similar names, and people had them all jumbled up, like Emmeline and Evelyn were the same person. And okay, and say like people putting their family trees together, or even in Family Search, like Ancestry.com or Family Search, and so I was a little confused at first, and I'm like, okay, something's not right, because my mom has told me the same story about Berna, telling her, that clearly Isaac was, great great grandfather was with both women at different times. So it is the same Isaac Nelson, but it is two different women, and they do have a couple batches of his kids. And then one of the women has another set of children with another, with her second husband. Okay, so here's what I found out. So as I'm comparing the censuses together, side by side, because that's what I had to do, because it was so weird, because it looked like like as I said, people were blending the women as if they were the same woman. So sorry, I know I'm like taking like way too long to get to this. I'm just trying to gather, how do I say this? What it appears, because of them having an 18, say like they both appear, I believe it's on the 1880 census and the 1870, actually, I think they both appear on the 1870 census and then the 1880 census. Sorry, just a second. Bear with me, please. Okay. So they do appear, okay, yeah. So they both appear on the 1880, Eveline and Emmeline, or Emmeline. Evelina, Evelyn, and Emmeline. So both of them appear on an 1880 census with both, and then both of them are on the, I think both of them are on the 1860 census. And one of them appears on the 1870 census. Yeah. Okay. Yes, that is correct. So one of them is missing from the 1870 census records that I can find. It was Evelyn, who wasn't there in the 1870 census. But Emmeline was our great great grandma, second great grandma, I Okay, so, excuse me, so it appears that Isaac Nelson might have been a little rascal. Excuse me. And then it wasn't like necessarily Emmeline that was like, you know, cruel to him because he was too old or something like that. That is just kind of almost like kind of silly. I don't know. But so okay. So it turns out that in the 1860 census, when I'm sorry, you guys probably will not be able to read my horrible handwriting, but this is how I had to do it. Okay. Oh, you know, the meme where the guy like has like all the red string behind him. This is who I felt like when I was doing this, because it was so confusing, convoluted, you know. Okay, so 1860. This is when Sylvester, our great grandfather, was, yeah, or our great grandfather, Sylvester was. Oh, I guess that, so yeah, so I guess like Emmeline and Isaac would be like third grades. Sorry. Okay, so when Sylvester was probably in the womb is what I'm saying, in 1860 rather. So Isaac, so they come upon the house with Isaac and Emmeline, and Isaac says that he is, unless these people are just terrible with math, the census workers, okay? But Isaac says he's 26 years old, and Emmeline says he tells her, whoever answered the door, says she's 24 years old, okay? So, and then in the same census, 1860, the other household, with Evelyn is, Isaac says he's 32, okay? So, in the one with Emmeline, the household with Emmeline, he says he's born in 1834, and in this with Evelyn, he says he's born in 1828. So he's 6 years older, in the other household with Evelyn, the first wife, and then and these are in two different counties. So they're in. With Emmeline, he's in Harrison Mercer, Missouri. And with Evelyn, he's in Pilot Grove, Cooper County, Missouri. So they're in two different counties. As far as I understand, he's a farmer in both. So Isaac is 32 years old in the household with Evelyn, and she's 32 years old. So they're both the same age, correct? So yeah. And then they have two children together. The other one doesn't have any children yet, okay? So it's like, I think it's Sarah and then Mary, I believe, are the two different kids. So they're like 4 and 2 years old, okay? The children that they have. And also in the real estate value in the household with Emmeline, it's $200. And then the personal estate value is $250. And in Evelyn, the household with her, its personal estate value was $150, and there was no property value stated. And by the way, I do believe that I have a more accurate age for Emmeline, because she was in the 1850 census when she was only 7 years old in her own, in her parents' household. So she was, born in 1843. Okay, so she. And then, with Isaac, his proper age, I believe, I'm trying to remember, but he basically was, instead of him saying, when he was saying, in this 1860 census, that he was, 26 years old, and that his wife, or the woman that was there with him, was 24, it was actually that Isaac was 39 years old, and that Emmeline was 17 years old, 16 or 17. And I just thought that was pretty funny that his age is more accurate in the household with Evelyn his wife, and then his age is like way downgraded, like many, like he's 23 years younger, according to whoever told the census worker this information in the 1860 census with, Emmeline, and then he's more accurate age with Evelyn. Okay. Sorry, guys. I am trying to make sense here. So then, and then, he says his birthplace is North Carolina, and this will be, pertinent when, when I'm talking about parentage, who his parents were. And in this one, so he says his birthplace is North Carolina when he's with Emmeline in that household, but then he says his birthplace is Kentucky, or someone said that. If it was Evelyn that answered the door, I don't know. But most of the time all other times he answers that his birthplace is North Carolina. So that's what I assume is correct. It is correct. Okay, so then in the 1870 census, it's Emmeline Nelson, the household with her. I don't have the one for Evelyn, as I said. So in 1870, he says his age is 43 and his birth date is 1827. So he's now saying his accurate age. And they're in Jackson Gentry, Missouri, and that is where our Nelsons are from, Jackson Gentry, Missouri. And the post office is Albany, and the real estate value, this is 10 years later, it says it's $2,160. So it's really jumped, okay? And then his personal estate value is $460. So then it says, and all these say that he can't read or write, and I assume that's pretty normal back then. And a farmer. And that it says inferred spouse, Emmeline Nelson. So I don't think he actually married her, as Verna maybe thought, or maybe she was told, or maybe, I never knew Grandma Verna, so I don't know if she would kind of make stuff up to sound more like respectable or something. Because things like back then that were shaming, like we don't care about that stuff anymore. But back then, it really could make or break your family. So yeah, they were quiet about a lot of stuff that it would be really nice to know a lot of things that they felt they had to be quiet about. And that society probably, caused them to feel they needed to be quiet about. Anyways, the household members, in the list of household members, they say their ages, and they say that Emmeline is now 10 years later. She is now only 2 years, or she is only 1 year older than she was 10 years ago. So it says Emmeline is 25. And it says Sylvester, our guy, our ancestor, he's 10 now. So it was accurate for his age. So he was born, in like 1859 or 1861 or something like that. And so he's 10. So it's like almost like you do the math, and she was 15 when she had him. I don't think so. I think she was like 17, maybe, 17 probably. And then they have a 7-year-old, James. They have a 5-year-old, Mary, and they have a 3-year-old, Andrew, and a 2.5-year-old, Lydia. So they now have 5 children together. And then we go to the 1880 censuses where both households show up. So there's Emmeline Richards, and this is now 10 years later. So she's now, how old is she now? She is only 30 years old 10 years later. So she was 25 10 years ago, and now she's 30 she's 30 10 years later. So, but it's the same person. It's the same children. It's the same, husband. And anyway, so she's consistent with her birthplace being Kentucky. So their home is still in Jackson Gentry, Missouri. And it says, I'm so silly. But so I was thinking she was still with Isaac. She's not still with Isaac. Now she's with Edward Richards. Okay, and it says marital status, married. There's no inferred spouse, okay? And then it says for, Edward Richards' birthplace, his father's birthplace is Tennessee. His mother's birthplace was Tennessee, and is saying that Emmeline's occupation was keeping house. Which I think was pretty, I don't know if that was like a way of saying like housewife. Okay, so, sorry. All right, so it says Edward Richards is 30. Emmeline Richards, 30. Edward Richards actually was, I think, about 7 years younger than she was. And so she might have been telling him that she was really that age, the 30 years old age, whereas she was older. Because in this year, in 1880, she would actually have been 37, I think. So, I just like love this lady. Like, she's actually like cracking me up. Like, I think she was probably in a tough spot. She was a teenager, and this older man, like maybe he's like, very good looking, charming, like that's our ancestor, right, guys? Anyways, and those piercing blue eyes that come from the Nelsons side, like I'm thinking that's comes from him too, Anyways, because we'll look at we'll compare the half siblings side by side, okay? So the kids are Sylvester Nelson, 19, James Nelson, 17, Mary Nelson, 16, Andrew Nelson, 10, Lydia Nelson, 9, John Nelson, 7, and then you've got now we're going into her children with Edward Richards. Then we've got Sarah Richards, 4, Caleb D. Richards, 2, Cora E. Richards, 1.5. Okay, and now we go to Evelyn's household. Evelyn's household in 1880 census says she's age 48. Her husband's age is 58. So now Isaac is 10 years older than Evelyn. So I actually think that's more accurate, that he was 10 years older than Evelyn. And, let's see, then 20 years older than, no, that wouldn't be 20. Would it be? Yeah, because she'd be 17, he'd be 39. So like 22 years older than Emmeline, right? Okay. I'm sorry, when they had first gotten together. But yeah, back to Evelyn. So then it says consistently here, her birthplace was Kentucky. They are in Saline, Cooper, Missouri. I think that's where they were before, or they were in, yeah, it's like Saline, Pilot Grove, Cooper County, Missouri. That's where they were before. They're still there. Marital status says married, and then it says spouse's name, Isaac Nelson, father's birthplace, meaning Evelyn's father and mother's birthplace, Kentucky. And then it says her occupation is also keeping house. Then household members are Isaac Nelson, 58 years old, Evelyn Nelson, 48 years old, Susan J. Nelson, 21, Mary E. Nelson, 19, Margaret A. Nelson, 14, John T. Nelson, 13. So in the other one, we had, in the 1880, Sylvester was 19. Also, we have Mary E. Nelson was 19. And then we have, let's see, I think they both had Marys. I think both the women named a daughter Mary. It was a pretty common name, but one of them is Mary E. Nelson, the other one's just Mary Nelson. So we had Sylvester, 19, James, 17, and then we have on the other one, we have, Mary, 19, and then Margaret, 14, and John, 13, and so, and then, with Emmeline, it's 19, 17, 16, 10, and 9, and then, 7, but, so that they overlap. He was with both women in different counties at the same time, people. this is why this is a little uncomfortable, because like I am like totally not into dissing our ancestors or anything like that, unless they're like did something like, I mean, this was bad, but it, you know, it was in Missouri. I don't know, like I think they were kind of insane in Missouri or something. Like they were, it was like the Wild West, you know, it was in that crazy. They were crazy people. Like they're, you know, oops, sorry, they're all about like freedom and doing whatever they felt like, and America's you know, like rugged, you know, whatever. It's just no rules kind of stuff. So, and also, you know, there's like no cell phones, there's no cameras, there's no real, like there was no like databases really that, you know, like could, like police or whatever could, and courts and stuff. I don't think there was like there was no like real quick way to communicate if someone was maybe doing something that they shouldn't be doing. And who knows what was, I don't know actually in Missouri, like what was against the law. I think bigamy has probably most of the time been against the law. You know, and I know I'm like talking as someone who, you know, I have clearly my two sides. I have very different backgrounds for the most part. But yeah, I mean, the women didn't know. It sounds like the women didn't know. And that is I mean, that's a problem. That's worse. You know, so like, you know, saying like a Mormon background, you know, like the Mormon background, the pioneers, they obviously, like everyone talks about or used to talk about that, like whenever in Washington State, like, you know, it'd be like, oh, you know, what's your religion? And then if I'd say, you know, Mormon or whatever, it'd be like, oh, you know, do you guys have two wives, or do you have, you know, stuff like that, you know. And it's like, obviously that was like outlawed back in like the 1800s, late 1800s. I think so. Utah could become a state partly, but anyways, so don't come at me. Don't at me about this. I'm Mormon and non-Mormons alike. I don't want to talk about it. But I'm just trying to address something that's like uncomfortable about this, but it's also like really funny to me because I think like it's crazy to have like kind of like these shenanigans going on, and that's one reason like there's been like mystery, because it's like that's atypical. This is atypical, okay? So okay, so then in the 1900 federal census, I don't think there was one for Emmeline. Oh, I'm sorry, there was. I'm so anyways, so Emmeline Richards, she now is married to this man, Edward H. Richards. So they actually has them moved to Nebraska. They went to home in 1900 is Scoville, Hamilton, Nebraska. Okay, and it says marital status, married. Still says that about her and Edward Richards. So I'm happy for her. I'm happy for our, you know, third great grandma. You know, like I'm sure that was a precarious situation she was in. So, and this year, let's see what age she is this year. So in 1900, she was 50. She says she's 50. So she's still 7 years younger than, I'm sorry, I keep giving you quotes, but you know. But like she's saying that she was born in 1850 here, and you know, I think she was really like 50, probably 57. Yeah, so her household, you know, members are Edward H. Richards. He says he's 53, so he you know, is 3 years older, thinks he is, than she is. And then D. Richards, 20, Hugh G. Richards, 18, and Joseph L. Richards, 16. Those are the kids left in the household. And it says, mother of how many living children? 5. How many children? 5. So there's 2 other kids not accounted for in this list here. You know, the list is 3, but she had a total of several more children than that. I'm not really sure how the questions were asked and stuff, so whatever, I don't know. So yeah, I really did my best to get through that, and I think that is the mystery solved with why it was why Verna kind of seemed like she just had to be quiet and think about it for a while. Yeah, so I hope that was interesting to you guys and not too upsetting. So or at all. I mean, you know, hopefully it's just like interesting. So because to me it wasn't upsetting. It was just interesting to me. I like human behavior. I like kind of studying it, and you know, it's partly I think why I like the true crime stuff. But okay, so let's see. We've got maybe some of you guys are true crime fans. You know, maybe like are you? You know, let me know. Okay, so then I think what's happened on the parentage thing for Sylvester. So remember Isaac is Sylvester's dad. So we see Isaac was 1827. He could have been 1822, but I think 1827 is like kind of just the more typical age that he is on the censuses. So okay. So his parentage. So he's always been a blank before this. So what Ancestry.com kept showing me to hook up with was Abraham Nelson and Sarah Davis. Guys, like, I'm so like, I don't know, like, I separate the two sides of my family pretty distinctly. So there's like the Mormon side, and then there's like the non-Mormon side, because you know, like I think like, you know, Grandma Inman, I don't think she likes Mormon people or just the Mormon religion in general or something, and that's fine, you know, like I've never cared about that, you know, like I know she loved me and loved all of her grandchildren and just adored us, you know, she was totally loyal to family. So, you know, I'm just saying, like, in my mind, like the twain shall never meet. The two never met in my mind. So, see, this is my background. This is my two sides of my family. Mountain West Mormon pioneers from my mom's side, and then the upper Midwest settlers from my dad's side. So the Iowa, Nebraska, South Dakota, and Minnesota border settlers, that's Dad's, you know, you know, Rick, Dave, and Jerry, that's, you know, they are from the upper Midwest settlers, essentially. So, and I want to show you guys too, like, let's talk about half-siblings really quickly, how much they resemble each other. Okay, have you guys seen Douglas Sylvester Nelson before? I'm pretty sure you have. I'm pretty sure all of us have seen that amazing picture of all those, all the plethora of children. Oh, and I would die. Okay. And then that is one of the half-sisters. That's one of the half-sisters of Douglas Nelson from, this is one of Evelyn and Isaac's children, Margaret. I think it's Margaret Ann. So, the freaking amazing eyes, right? Like, they have these, like, amazing kind of, like, deep-set, kind of smiley-looking eyes. I'm so sorry, that's really shaky. But just piercing blue, and also their cheekbones like look really similar, like they're placed very similarly, totally different forehead and stuff. But anyways, I'm a total face person, like I really study faces. And conceivably, yes, they're half siblings. I mean, that was already pretty much known before, but the discrepancy here was that we didn't know that they overlapped, that Isaac was with both women at the same time. So I think what happened really was like that, maybe why that was so surprising was that the railroad, I believe, was just underway in like the late 1850s and early 1860s. And it was for transportation between the postal service, you know, the post services, the post offices. And they did have different post offices, and I think between those two counties, it was like it could be the fastest travel, it could be like a 4-hour train ride, or it could be like a 12-hour train ride, depending on maybe the, you know, advancements or who was driving or what train it was. Anyways, you guys look into it if you want. But yeah, so what was the other thing I was going to say? Oh, so yeah, Ancestry.com like kept suggesting this Abraham Nelson, born in 1796, married to Sarah Davis, born 1804, 1809. And their background was that they both joined the Mormon Church almost at the very inception of the church, but they had both been in North Carolina. So they'd been in North Carolina before, had Isaac in North Carolina, because remember he always said, sorry. Okay, so Isaac had consistently said, except that one time, but had consistently said he was from North Carolina. And this couple, Abraham and Sarah, they had said that, you know, in their records it says they are North Carolinians. And then they did move around. They were born in they were married in 1827, okay, in North Carolina. And that's where Isaac was born, and that was his birthday, 1827. He could have been born right after they got married. He, you know, they could have been pregnant with them before, you know, I don't really know. And then, but it's a pretty, like, how the genealogy and family history kind of like worked. Like, they didn't do like birth control and stuff back in the day. Like, it wasn't like a real common thing to do that. So they'd like get married, and then it would be like the year they got married, a child comes, you know, or within a year, you know, that kind of thing. Or just like so they get married, say like they got married in 1827, and they'd have their child in 1828. That's pretty typical as well. Yeah, so anyway, just kind of, and then with my DNA matches, like when I've been looking at my DNA matches, normally when it's my dad's side, it's only matching my dad's DNA. And then when it came to the Abraham and Isaac Nelson people, like, it matched my mom once, and then my dad's also, which it didn't happen like almost in any of the lines. I don't think it happened once in any of the lines that I have checked out. I've checked out many of the lines that I come from. And yeah, so like, so I'm pretty sure, because with the Mormon, you know, settlement, you know, like Utah Territory and the church and stuff like that, like, I mean, you would be like related to different people that were around that, because I mean, like I was saying in the last video, when even the Pilgrims and stuff came to settle an area, there was only like 32 families in the same area, something like that. So it was like a pretty small group at first. So you kind of tend to maybe, you know, the DNA tracing would be just the similar group of people for a minute there. And so Isaac Nelson's parents, like I think it was Abraham Nelson, had a relation to my mom's Benson side. And so I'm pretty sure that if that's from my dad and from my mom, and then it's like they're obvious. I mean, I was refusing to put them together. And then I finally just kind of gave up when I was like, you know what? It's saying, here's the marriage, here's the year, here's the location. That's how genealogy works for the most part, you know. It's unfortunate that there is no birth certificate or birth record with Isaac on it with Abraham and Sarah Nelson. I kind of think maybe he disowned his parents or they disowned him. I'm thinking there was some shenanigans going on, just depending, you know, just kind of judging by his behavior. Yeah, like I think he, you know, I think his parents, there's a record of them being in Illinois at some point. And yeah, so I think they were kind of moving around with the Mormon settlers. And I think Isaac just was like, screw this, like, I'm gonna do my own thing. So they were going through some major crap, and I think he was maybe he saw the polygamy too and was just like, I'm not gonna do polygamy this way because they had to get like permission and stuff. And so maybe he's like, I'll just do my own kind of polygamy. I don't know. Who knows? But it's like, I mean, I can't read the guy's mind, but it's still crazy and like super interesting. Like, I'm not like a fan of that part of the history of, you know, the Mormon church. Like, pretty much nobody is. Like, nobody likes that. But I mean, I'm not going to defend it. Neither am I going to condemn it because, you know, that was a totally different time back then and stuff. So anyways, so if you guys ever want to hook up and check this stuff out, then you can. It's you know, I have all the stuff on ancestry.com already. And these are pretty amazing people like Thomas Burton Nelson. Like, these are people that fought in the Revolutionary War, and you know, like we have a really cool bunch of people in our background. So yeah, we can you know talk more later about it, but yeah. So I wanted to tell you really quick, like this lady, this tough little lady there, she comes from the background, or my dad would tell me this, that one of her, I think it was one of her daughters or someone, that she actually would like hold up her husband's Model T Ford, like she'd lift it up like almost like a squat or something, and lift up whatever side of it he needed, and he would be able to change a tire when she was just holding it. Like, totally stout family like that Dowd is. I think they're Scottish. So anyways, love you guys. Thanks for sticking with me. Hope that was interesting. Hope you have a great week. Happy Monday, and talk to you later.